Welcome to the Draft Professor. I'm joined today by Matt and Steve, and we're going to be doing a two-round mock draft here in a few minutes. Matt, it's good to see you on a Thursday night. Welcome to the Thursday night show. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Almost the end of the week. Friday Junior.
Yes. Steve, good to see you on a Thursday. How are things in Jetland?
Exciting, a lot of free agent signings that probably won't mean anything for 2026. But, as most of Jets Twitter will tell you, it's all about the March for Arch, even though
Right.
I don't necessarily sit in that camp. Anyway, but yeah, fun time. We got through legal tampering and the start of the year, and, the mocks now start taking different shape, right? Because some of these teams filled some needs. So, yeah, we rock and roll.
Yep. So we are going to be doing a two-round mock. We will be using the Draft Professor Simulator. We have every team selected 2 rounds, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So I have the first team in the draft order, which is the Las Vegas Raiders. At this point, I think the Raiders can mail their pick in. It's Fernando Mendoza. I don't think that should be any surprise, and that's going to put Steve's Jets on the clock here too.
Yeah. So, couldn't decide if, this exercise is about what I think they will do, what I would do, or we just, really go to have some fun and shake things up a little bit. And maybe I come out somewhere in between. So I definitely think, the predominant names that we've heard for them being Arvell Reese and to a lesser degree, David Bailey probably make the most sense. I'm not ready to quit on Ruben Bain yet. For many months, he was, for me, the best player in the draft. If the Jets are truly switching to a 3-4 alignment, I think, that's a natural fit for him. But where I'm going to go, and it may not be popular, is I look at guys like Bain and Reese as ones where you're trying to figure out where they fit. Is Bain an edge? Should he be inside? Is Reese an edge or a linebacker? I don't have a lot of faith right now in 2026 in this coaching staff. So I just want to keep things simple and give a guy one assignment and tell him what to do. So I'm going to go with Texas Tech's David Bailey at pick number 2.
What do you think the Cardinals do at 3?
Yeah. So I think the Cardinals kind of get shaken up here because in most of the time that I do mocks, I kind of have the top 3 have been relatively similar for me, and I am like Steve said, it's kind of whether you're doing what will happen, what we think will happen, or what we want to have happen, or what we would do. So Arvell Reese still being on the board might be something interesting, but the Cardinals did just hire a new offensive head coach. They have one of the best left tackles in the league. You have to imagine that later on in this draft, they may go draft a quarterback, and they're going to have to kind of figure out their offensive line, figure things out. Right now, it's going to be Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew, which probably makes Cardinals fans want to vomit in their mouths. But that leaves you probably needing a quarterback either next year or later in this year's draft. So I think taking a tackle is the right way to go. I think Francis Mauigoa is the best right tackle in this year's draft. I think he's the best offensive tackle in general in this year's draft. And so I think that at a valuable position, something like that, I'm not really worried about his arms. I've seen the way he plays. I think that he belongs at right tackle, and he and Paris Johnson will protect your quarterback for over a half a decade.
Piggyback off of Steve's logic a little bit. Because Ruben Bain and Arvell Reese, you may not be confident of their positional fit. Don't burn through a top 4 draft pick when you have to guess what position the player will be. In addition, the Titans took Cam Ward last year. They need wide receiver. They need wide receiver bad. I'm going Carnell Tate at 4 because you're helping your quarterback and you know what position he's playing. There's really good depth at the draft at both linebacker and edge for the Titans to do something later. I'm going to go with Carnell Tate. Not everybody's wide receiver 1. He's not even in everybody's top 3, but I'm going with Carnell Tate at 4th overall. And Steve, you get to pick for the other New York team.
Yeah. Love that. Like some of the moves that they've made this week. And before we got to free agency, there was a lot of chit chat, that Harbaugh and his new staff, with looking at Caleb Downs. I definitely think that secondary is a little thin. Does positional value matter to me a lot? Most of the time, no. Does positional value mean a lot to me with the 2026 draft? Also, no. So they just made a release of a guy who is, I think it was Walter Payton Man of the Year, in Bobby Okereke. I want a leader of my defense. Sonny Styles is one of the best players on my board. I have him at number 2 on my board overall. He is now a New York Giant.
Your Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, so I think the Browns find themselves in a unique situation. This all kind of is going to come down to, I think, what the new coach is looking for. Todd Monken is going to have a lot of say in what happens in this year's draft. But Todd Monken is very focused on building the offensive line for the Browns. Another, important position I think we're going to see get pushed up the board, especially with how thin the position is. There's not a lot of depth later on in the draft. And I'm kind of going with more of what I think the Browns will do, less than what I would do. I think that if the Browns are up here, they don't have a left tackle right now. They're going to go take their top left tackle in the draft. And I think for a lot of people, that's Monroe Freeling. So I think that's where he ends up. I would think the Browns would maybe consider Caleb Downs here because, in my opinion, he's the best player in the draft. But Todd Monken really has emphasized building that offensive line. They already made a trade for one. They've gone out and signed a couple of guys. Elton Jenkins traded for Titus Howard. They went and got Zion Johnson. So I think they're going to go get that blindside tackle, try to set things up for the future. So I'm going to say Monroe Freeling, but I definitely would think they consider Caleb Downs and consult the rest of their coaching staff on that one.
Steve, so thank you for stopping by. Okay, so I am up for the Washington Commanders. I almost said Redskins. For the Washington Commanders at 7. So there is a draft professor that absolutely loves Jeremiah Love here. Not going to do Jeremiah Love at 7 to the Commanders. Val Reese dropped. The Commanders need defensive help. And I don't know that Reese can really drop too much further. Like, we wouldn't want the Saints or the Chiefs to get Reese, right? That doesn't, right? Reese has to be off the board here. So I'm going Reese over Love, even though there are definitely some draft professors that would tell me that should be Jeremiah Love there. So the Saints, and this would be Steve, you're up.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with Reese. I mean, they signed, some defensive help, the Commanders, and they made a move for running back today. But I love that. Saints, different ways to go. Certainly on the D line. And I'm tempted to do that, but I want to build Tyler Shuck up a little bit. And I think Kellen Moore is a good head coach. I think a lot of people thought they'd be the worst team in the league last year. And, they were close, but they weren't a 0 or a 1 or a 2-win team. I want to give Shuck some more help, despite the defense. And I'm looking at receiver. Obviously, Tate went to the Titans. On my board, Jordan Tyson is wide receiver 2, but I'm hesitating with that one. You like when I use the expression, a broken toy at Christmas. I know the medical seems to have been okay, but, Chris Olave has had some issues in the past. I mean, he did have a good 2025. I don't want to take the chance. I want to do something a little different. I'm going to make Mekhi Lemon of USC a Saint.
Matt, talk through your Chiefs here at number 9.
Yeah, so for me, my top option for the Chiefs is the top player in the draft, and the stars kind of align here. I don't know how possible it is, especially with trades, maybe how Washington ends up going. I mean, if Arvel Reese is there, I do totally agree. I am not going to take Jeremiah Love to the Chiefs because we just paid Kenneth Walker, and I cannot imagine Brett Veach, who has never really invested in running back before in his career, just doubling down and taking another running back. What I can see him doing is taking the number one player in the draft, going with Caleb Downs. I think Steve Spagnuolo would be a little kid on Christmas. Getting Caleb Downs would be over the moon. I think Caleb Downs is the safest bet in this class to be an all-pro player at some point, be a Pro Bowl player at some point. The Chiefs will take what they can get. Our secondary is pretty thin considering the trades and all that stuff. And players move in and all of them go into the Rams. So Caleb Downs it is. I think he immediately makes our defense a significant level better.
So I am up for the Bengals at 10. This for me is between three players. Like there's three players that deserve mention. It's Reuben Bain, Peter Woods, Jeremiah Love. Those are the three players that are going through my mind. So I'm not going to do Woods, but that is who, like Dale from Bengals and Brews, Ryan Sparks, they're saying that this pick is probably Peter Woods. I'm going to say it's Reuben Bain. Even though they have signed an edge in free agency, they still need a decent amount of defensive line help. So I'm going to let Love slide a little bit here, but the slide of Jeremiah Love, he falls out of the top 10, and Steve, you're for the Miami Dolphins at 11.
Yeah. Miami's, like many teams, a lot of needs, right? They haven't done too much thus far. It's been more of a salary cap cleaning. And then they bring in Malik Willis. There have been, a couple of signings here and there. I'm certainly thinking about that secondary for sure. Right tackle, right guard, a couple of other spots. This is one I'm looking at the board. And this is one I'm going to give, I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to give Malik Willis a weapon, not a wide receiver because they could use one. They could address that later, but I'm going to throw Kenyon Sadiq. Yep. You highlighted it. I'm going to make him a Dolphin.
Richest, I've seen Sadiq go in a mock. So where is he on your board, Steve?
Yeah, so overall, I mean, my tight end one, although I've said it 100 times, I don't necessarily consider him the prototypical tight end. I do consider him more just a weapon. I love how he plays, big slot, put him against man coverage, watch him eat. I have him as my 18th player on my board overall.
You for the Dallas Cowboys at 12.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are kind of over the moon here. Very happy that Jeremiah Love falls right into their lap, although they do have a lot of defensive needs to address. Running back is also a need, regardless of if they re-sign Javonte Williams. I know that they brought him back and he played well last year, but Jeremiah Love's the best running back in the class. Cowboys could use another running back, a two-headed back and forth between Jeremiah Love and Javonte Williams would be a very fun thing to watch. It would immediately make their offense more reliable. And so I think that they're going to stop him from falling much further. They do have another first round pick that they can use to pick up a corner, as I see Brandon is mentioning maybe Mansour Delane, but they're only picking in 8 more picks. So there's going to be a corner of some kind that's going to be available for them to take later on in the draft. So again, I'm going to take Jeremiah Love.
I'm for the Rams at 13. And to me, this pick can go a lot of directions. So the Rams have, I believe, signed 2 corners in free agency. So whereas 2 weeks ago, this pick is always a defensive back. If Delane or McCoy are here, 2 weeks ago, that was the pick. I think this becomes offense. Now, from an offensive tackle standpoint, I think Lomu this would be his ceiling, right? Like, meaning that I don't think Lomu goes in the top 12, but I could see the Rams do need a left tackle. I could see them doing that here. But Cooper Jr. in a Sean McVay offense, shout out to Owen. Owen has Omar Cooper Jr. as his 11th overall prospect, and he is wide receiver 2. And we've done this on a few mocks on some other nights. I am beginning to say Omar Cooper Jr. is a Ram. It's like one of my perfect scheme fits in the draft. And with that being said, we are up, and that is Steve for the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, you stole my thunder. You tag team there. You know, Owen's not here, but that was the way I was thinking of going. So you swiped me, you know, with the Ravens. Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about the Ravens because I think they've been in the media quite a bit over the last few days. Maybe I'm wrong. That's been an interesting story, but you know, I could still look at some defensive line. I'm not taking a center here. My board just will not, you know, let me do a center in the first round unless I'm committed to, you know, taking Fano and putting him at center, but that's too rich a pick here for me. Yeah, you're right, Wilbur. I'm going to go with the defensive backfield, start building it up. I know Taylor had messaged us. He couldn't be with us tonight. He wanted the Bengals to take Dylan Thieneman. Well, they didn't, but the Baltimore Ravens are. So I'm taking Dylan Thieneman, safety out of Oregon, at number 14 for the Baltimore Ravens.
So, Matt, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So with the Buccaneers coming up, I think they have a lot of options to go. Dylan Thieneman was on my radar. The Ravens would have a lot of fun with that, having him, Hamilton, and Malachi Starks. The GM did not rule out that he would take safety in the first round again. He said he'll try, but he did not say no. So that would be
saying there's a chance.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're saying. So that would be a fun pick for them. I did think about taking Thieneman here, but he is not on the board. So that kind of leaves me with my two options. I typically like to see Sadiq here. He goes a little bit higher. So I'm looking at Jermod McCoy. I'm looking at Mansour Delane. And then I'm looking at linebacker. And the second overall linebacker on my board is Jacob Rodriguez. I have him above CJ Allen. And that's something I think Todd Bowles would consider. I think it's something that they would look at, but I also think that they will see corner as a bit more of a valuable position for them, especially with linebacker depth in the draft.
The Buccaneers last year took Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish. I don't think they need a corner high.
I could see him go with one on the outside, just because I don't know. With Zion McCollum is questionable, and Parrish is going to be stuck in the slot. And McCollum was dealing with some injuries, and the depth isn't really there. You can never really have too many good corners, in my opinion. But I was going to end up kind of going back to saying that while I think they value corner, there's also a lot of linebacker depth. I do think Jacob Rodriguez is the best player, is the better player of that group of guys. So that is who I would go.
Rodriguez at 15.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I've done mocks with corner to Tampa Bay earlier in the cycle when like a Delane fell, and I was told there's almost no way from
I
the
just
Buccaneers
don't
draft professors.
I don't trust Benjamin Morrison very much. He slipped in the draft last year for a reason. He was not super successful last season. I wasn't a huge fan of Jacob Parrish in the draft, although he played very, very well. And Zion McCollum has struggled to stay healthy last year, and has had 2 seasons where he did not play every game of the year. And corner is one of those positions where you can kind of afford to replace those guys. And kind of move on from players as you see fit. The Chiefs have kind of made a mark of that, moving on from guys like McDuffie and Watson and replacing them through the draft. So that is why I would consider that.
You are for the Jets.
I like that Bucks pick. Get them their next generation Levante David. All right, so the Jets. Couple of different ways to go. The one area, and this falls under the heading of what I would do versus them. We got pick 16 by trading Sauce Gardner over to the Colts. I am now not using pick 16 to take another first round corner. I won't do that. To me, it's just not a good use of assets, even though we've got Delane still on the board and McCoy still on the board, all these guys. Again, it's just not a good deploy of assets for me. I'm okay on the D line. Obviously I picked up Bailey and some of the free agent signings this week. So I didn't think they would bring back either John Simpson or Elijah Vera Tucker. I figured they would address it in the draft. I've done plenty of mocks where I have Vega Ioane here. But again, under the heading of, what I would do, I'm getting a little tired as a Jet fan of the first round O lineman. So as good a player as he is, I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to have a quarterback at some point, in 27, maybe, Gino looks okay this year. But there's a wide receiver who I think may be the one true number one wide receiver in this draft. Okay, out of Arizona State. I'm a little worried about his legs on the MetLife turf because that thing ends careers, but I'm making Jordan Tyson the Jet.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the Kansas City Chiefs taking a corner later on right after trading Trent McDuffie. That just does feel somewhat redundant. So I am surprised Jordan Tyson made it this far. I for a smidgen thought about it with the Buccaneers pick, but I just did not. I don't think they would have let Mike Evans go and then take similar to the way that we did. Although I do think Jordan Tyson is the type of player that probably could have gone earlier, should have gone earlier if he's healthy.
Well, and the thing is, if you look at the way Garrett Wilson plays, there are some similarities in the game between, the body control and, that Jordan Tyson has, maybe, in the actual, as I'm doing more mocks, I'm intrigued by some other guys that would be more complimentary, but for the sake of this exercise, here he is. And it was fun.
So I'm up for the Detroit Lions at 17. To me, this has to be a tackle. Question is which one? I think any of the top 5 could go here. The Lions need a right tackle and they need a left tackle. And realistically, they could take Sewell, who's on the right, and they could move him to the left, or they could draft a left tackle like Lomu. So it really just comes down to which of these players do they like, which one fits their locker room the best. I don't think it would be Ahina Chor because Ahina Chor is a project and the Lions have Super Bowl aspirations. So they have to get somebody that can play week 1. I think that's Caleb Lomu at left tackle. This would be meant for the Vikings.
Yeah, well, the Vikings come up. They just made a big move today, going to get another quarterback with Kyler Murray. So that'll be fun. A little project for Kevin O'Connell. By the way, if you Google the Vikings depth chart, Kyler Murray is listed as quarterback 1 and JJ McCarthy's backup. So that's kind of cool. I am hoping that's what they do because JJ McCarthy was really bad. I think this is another one where you definitely look at corner. I think that that should be a common pick for the Vikings. Their secondary is pretty bad, and they love to blitz. They love to run man coverage. Brian Flores is super aggressive. So I think that if all the medicals check out with Jermod McCoy, you go get a guy who can press the ever-living crap out of people at the line of scrimmage and has all the skills to stick with them down the field. If anybody at 100% health is able to stick in coverage for 2-3 seconds, I would take Jermod McCoy. And so I am going to put him out there at 18 for the Buccaneers, who I think would love if he made it to them. Sorry, I said the Buccaneers, the Vikings.
To the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. I was, as we go through these mocks and everything, I have consistently been on defense for them. Free agency, legal tampering, whatever you want to call it. You look at the deals they did, I'm going to slide it. But, I thought probably one of the more interesting moves they made this week was, even though they have like $5.5 million they owe Andy Dalton, they went out and got Kenny Pickett. I thought that was interesting for a 1-year, $7 million deal. Maybe they do have to make a decision on Bryce Young in about 2 months. I expect them to exercise the option. But anyway, whoever's going to be playing quarterback or whatever, they had a pretty significant injury at the end of the season with Ike Ekwonu. They need a tackle. So, Jim, can you scroll for me? Just go to tackles. Okay. Yeah. Some may feel it's a little early for him. Fano, I still have him as a tackle on the right side. I still have more things to watch, but I'll probably slide him in. Proctor, I have always felt as a guard. You made a great point before on Ian Natchor. I'm taking Blake Miller to be a Carolina Panther.
They need defense. They need a lot of defense. Defensive line is a bigger need, specifically edge is a bigger need than corner. I'm doing some podcasts with Greg Rector, who's going to be part of Epic Mock 26. So I'm going to go Keldrick Falk here at pick 20. Start giving Dallas some defensive line help. And then, Matt, you are up for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And a lot of pressure here because Will is going to be drafting for the Steelers in Epic Mock 26. So,
oh, boy. Well, Will, if you're a Steelers fan, I'm not going to make you very happy today, I don't think, because I am doing
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I am doing what I think will happen. And I have a very good friend and guy who I've known for my entire life who mentioned this on Twitter the other day. He's a big Penn State guy. His name's Landon. I went to high school with him. And he said, quote, it's not going to be Ty Simpson, and it's going to make you probably even more mad, but I'm so serious when I say it. The NFL is not going to let Drew Aller get out of the first round. I think the NFL does this where they gamble on traits. They gamble on guys that have the athleticism and the upside. And I personally have witnessed Mike McCarthy see what Aaron Rodgers was able to do with his traits and skills. And I think that he is going to go on a dreamland tour of praying that he can turn Drew Aller into that. And so, like Landon said, and like we've heard from some other people, I don't think Drew Aller is a first round prospect. I want to make it very clear that I don't have Drew Aller in the first 2 days of the draft, but I will very confidently say that whether it's a trade up or a regular draft pick, whether it's the Steelers or the Browns or somebody like the Cardinals trades into the first round, the NFL will not let Drew Aller make it out of the top 32 picks. And so I'm going to take him to the Steelers.
Matt, I've done that exact pick. Allar round 1 to the Steelers. I actually think out of the quarterbacks in the draft, I think Allar and Taylon Green would be the players that will, because Will's similar to you. You bet on the upside, right? Don't draft a quarterback for his floor. Draft a quarterback for his ceiling.
Nailed it.
Yep.
And I think that's both my belief, because if you have the ceiling in the quarterback, if you don't trust that your coaching staff can get the best out of a player, why is that your coach? That doesn't make any sense to me. That'll never make sense to me. So, and the most important position in the draft, if you're saying I'm drafting a quarterback for his floor because I don't know that we're going to get the ceiling out of this guy, why is that your coach? Your coach should be able to do that. And so I'm going to go with Drew Aller. I just think that the traits, especially in the arm, is going to be a little bit more polished than Taylon Green, and Taylon Green's older. There's just a lot less time. So that's what I'm going to take.
Okay, so I am up for the Los Angeles Chargers. So we did some Chargers mocks over the weekend. We had a Chargers podcaster come in. They're in great favor of the Chargers going edge. The best edge on the board right now is TJ Parker. So he is on his way to Los Angeles, going from coast to coast, from Clemson to the Pacific. And then this is Steve for the Eagles.
Man, that one, I know the Chargers need the D line, but man, I need to protect Justin Herbert. If that was mine, I would have made Ioane the pick in under 2 seconds. I would have run that card up so fast, people would have called me the Flash.
They've addressed offensive line in free agency.
Not
Yeah,
enough.
they say that every year.
Yep.
Not enough. Yep, not enough. All right, Eagles. Let's see, which way are they gonna go?
Correct, professors. This has to be an offensive tackle.
Really.
Yeah,
That Delane has ever dropped a 23 either.
I was just about to say, I don't know that the Eagles can see the way that their cornerback twos played last year and not take Mansour Delane.
yeah. Now, who did they sign this week at corner? I can't
Woolen.
remember. Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
they
a
gave him
1 year deal.
Yeah, 1 year, $15 million deal. I know they
Yeah.
need no line help. I got to put Delane next to Quignon and in that room along with Coop. So
And
yeah,
on a 1 year deal, the Eagles can easily trade that contract and get a 5th round, 6th round, 7th round pick. Yeah.
Too many corners. It's okay. It's okay to go into a season with 3 or 4 corners.
That's what I was saying with the Buccaneers. You can never have
Mhm.
too much depth. And for somebody like Zion McCollum or somebody like Benjamin Morrison, if your rookie plays really well, you can go ahead and trade one of those other guys. The Chiefs have done it for years.
This is Matt is up for the Cleveland Browns. They took Monroe Freeling earlier in round 1.
Man, I hate drafting for the Cleveland Browns. Because it really is just like take the best player available that you haven't already taken. Because it feels like they need everything. As much as I would love to, and I'm sure Wilbur would love to see me go with a quarterback for them too and screw them. I am not. Although I'm not a Shooter Sanders believer, I don't know that Todd Monken would go and take a 1st round quarterback. I'm going very back and forth here. Tough one. I think they're going to try to go with like whoever is the best player on their board. And having already addressed offensive tackle, like they could go offensive line again. Man, I'm gonna take. I'm looking at their roster, and I don't know.
They did make
Receiver,
they did do a
corner,
lot.
offensive line.
They did a lot in
Yeah.
free agency. But the corner, I
Yeah.
thought about doing a corner, but they have their 2 outside corners addressed. I mean, you can have more depth with Tyson Campbell and Denzel Ward, but they seem pretty folded on those. I'm gonna fold. I'm just gonna go with another offensive lineman. I think Ioane will fall into here,
Wow.
and Monken will just solidify up front. He's gonna be looking for a new quarterback next season. So I could see it. I don't love it. I'm not confident, is what I'm saying. Didn't really know exactly where to go with that one. I would imagine they'd try to trade out of that pick or try to trade up earlier, but
I'm going to give you the Bears because I'm up next for the Bills.
Oh man, I was hoping for the Bills, and I would have made you happy too. I had it all along, but that's fine. All right, Chicago. They need some O-line help. I'm going to give them some D-line, defensive help instead. Let's see. I'm not really on top of who they've signed this week. I don't think it has been. I mean, I know they brought in Kobe Bryant for the safety position. Haven't recalled too much. I'm going to go with the number 2 defensive tackle on my board. Number 1 was Caleb Banks, we could have that conversation another day. Poor guy, another foot thing. But my number 2 is Caden McDonald, and I'm making him a Bear.
The first time I have seen Peter Woods fall to 26. He isn't falling to 27. We have a lot of needs. We need we need a wide receiver. But like if I have to compare the wide receivers that are here,
I was going to give you Concepcion.
and Concepcion would be a good pick, but not over Peter Woods. Peter Woods would be a perfect fit in Buffalo's new 3-4 defense. He can't drop past Buffalo.
You just slapped me in the face. As a Chiefs fan, I just posted today on Twitter that my dream mock draft for the Chiefs would be Caleb Downs, then Peter Woods if he ever makes it that far. But I think his pro day is going to mean that he ain't going to make it that far, as much as I would love it.
Saying, like the Raiders where he could drop to 36. To your point, Matt, if we look like all these teams are playoff teams, I could not imagine Peter Woods getting skipped over by Buffalo and San Francisco and Kansas City and Denver.
I genuinely will
New England.
I genuinely will tell you, I think that if he's on the board, and this is kind of what I was thinking, and I know we're not doing trades, but I really think the Browns would consider trading down there, and the Chiefs would try to jump all of those teams, including the Bears, who just took an interior defensive lineman. If Peter Woods was still on the board, or even if it wasn't Peter Woods and they fell in love with one of the other defensive linemen, it feels like a run on interior guys is going to be right around there. And the Chiefs just acquired that extra draft capital. I could absolutely see them giving up, the first and a third, the first and a second, something like that, to go get themselves a better interior.
San Francisco 49ers here.
I am up.
Yep.
Well,
okay.
Really, let's do Steve. Steve, why don't you do the 49ers? I'll do the Texans. Okay. Matt will do the Chiefs. And that way we're going to make Matt just sweat it just a little bit to see if we pick any of the other guys.
That's what I thought was happening. So,
yeah.
Look far enough ahead in order to think like that.
Yeah. So, wide receiver I'd have as a consideration. Now with Mike Evans going there, I'm not going to prioritize it. Although the question is, will that electrical substation make injuries worse for Mike Evans? Or will it work in reverse and he'll be Superman now? But I'm going to take wide receiver out of round 1. I need O-line. I would have jumped for Lomu or Blake Miller here if they were there. They could use D-line. Let me see what's available at edge for a second.
I didn't love any of them for the Browns.
Yeah.
I really struggled with that too.
All right. So I'm going to go back to the offensive line, and I am going to go with, I think with Trent, that's a left tackle thing, but I'm going to let Shanahan figure out how he wants to play his guys. I'm going to give them Fano.
So I need a center. That's a really good pick because you may not know what position Fano's going to play.
Right.
But he'll be able to fill one of their offensive line open.
Yep.
So I am up for the Houston Texans. So if I'm going based upon player grades, right? So while tackle is a higher position of need, the Texans need more than one offensive line. I'm going to go Chase Besantis from the standpoint of you're raising the floor of your offensive line room, getting a plug-and-play starter in round 1. Proctor maybe enters the conversation, but again, we're talking about a playoff team here. So when you're a playoff team, you don't want to take your offensive line projects in round 1. You want to get guys that you know are going to come in and play. So I'm bringing Chase Besantis to Houston, and then we're bringing Matt for the Kansas City Chiefs here.
Okay. I'm just gonna make this public knowledge for any other draft professors you have on here. Offensive tackle is not being considered. It may be considered by the Chiefs, and they're throwing that smoke out there. I will be off the internet if we spend one of these first round picks on another offensive tackle. So that's off the question. So really what I consider here is wide receiver, interior defensive line, and edge. I look at Akeem Mesidor, who is my guy, really athletic. The Chiefs are looking to win now. They're not going to care how old he is. Injury history may be mildly concerning, but that also applies to Caleb Banks, who is the other person that I would consider. The Chiefs did have a top 30 visit with him. I've written about him plenty. A very, very athletic player. The Chiefs would determine how severe they think that foot injury is that he keeps having. And then when you go to wide receiver, the Chiefs have a type when it comes to wide receiver. As much as I absolutely cannot stand it, Casey Concepcion would fit that type of receiver that Andy Reid loves to get. But I can't stand it. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with Caleb Banks. I'm assuming that this is something that gets resolved. The Chiefs did have him in for a top 30 visit. I think they really liked what they saw on tape, and it takes a little bit of pressure off him to put him next to Chris Jones. They also brought in Chris Tonga and Omar Norman Lott, so he's going to be one of those guys that you can rotate in and out. And I know that maybe not what Chiefs fans want to hear with the 29th pick in the draft after we were the 9th worst team in the NFL, but healthy Chiefs, they'll be back. They'll be okay. And having a player like Caleb Banks, who even if you're just rotating him in, is such a dominant player, works for me.
So, Steve, you are up for the Denver Broncos.
Man, I would love to just annoy Taylor right now. And maybe I will. But you know what? If you got to be here. It's your team. Make the pick. Let's go CJ Allen. I think he'd be a good fit in the defense. I could also go D-line, but the way the board's playing out, I just, old school Vance Joseph scheme, I think it will work.
Patriots have needs at edge and wide receiver. So, from my standpoint, Casey Concepcion may drop a few too many passes. So, do you go with high athletic ability, which would be Boston or Brazel, versus a player with a lot of rack ability in Concepcion who may have some drop issues? So, there's not a perfect wide receiver here. I think Mesidor and Young, as well as Howell, as well as R. Mason Thomas, could be mentioned here.
I can't imagine Patriots fans' reaction if they spent a top 50 pick on a Washington receiver again, that people were like worried is overrated. I love Denzel Boston. Don't get it twisted. I like him. I'm just imagining what Patriots fans would do to the GM if he went out and got another like slightly less athletically gifted Washington wide receiver who everybody thinks is super reliable. Like, that would be
did
my
they
only
really
concern.
Did they really want them to send pick 31 to, Philly for AJ Brown? And then with the money and everything, I would rather,
Right.
they took Dobbs this
Very
week.
true.
I would go Boston, but
I
yeah,
also
that's
would. I
just-
just don't know that Patriots fans would love that, which is
well,
part
none
of why
them are
I
here, so who cares, right?
I went with Drew Aller. I don't care what the Steelers fans think, so don't listen to me, man.
Looking at this, so for the Patriots, very similar to how I did a high floor player with Besantis. I think if you're the Patriots, you want to pick a player with a floor who's going to, is going to be able to help your roster. And that's where, there is a chance that you miss on any of these three receivers, right? We like them as prospects, but the hit rate on first round wide receivers is only about 50%. it's the same hit rate in round 2 with just less risk. So I'm going to take Mesidor as a high floor player for the Patriots in round 1, and Matt, you're up for Seattle here in round 2. Excuse me, Seattle at the end of round 1.
All right. The Seahawks are in a bit of a bind, and I think that they would seriously consider running back here if there was one worth taking. I would not consider running back here because I don't think there's one worth taking. But I know there are people that would argue for Jadarian Price. Jonah Coleman would come the closest to this for me, but is not what I would look at. I don't think the Seahawks signed a guard. And if Bradford is leaving, I'm of the impression that they haven't signed a guard. And I'm going to look right now before I say that I'm taking Emmanuel Pregnon. But poor guy at the Jets next. He wanted Pregnon.
We're doing a really good job of sniping each other.
I don't know that Anthony Bradford is who the Seahawks want to roll out there again. They already got a great return on investment from Gray Zabel. And I think they'd be willing to go invest at guard again, especially because they just lost Kenneth Walker. So boosting up that interior, the offensive line will help their run game. So I am going to take Emmanuel Pregnon, and I sincerely apologize.
We had 3 guards go round 1.
Yeah. Fine. He's all stiff in the hips. Have fun. All right. So here we go. 2 picks in the second round. I went Bailey and Tyson. Couple of other positions. I mean, this is where corner I might think about. They signed a guy. They signed Wright. That's a 1-year deal. Brandon Stevens was not a big issue. I thought they did great value with Azariah Thomas last year, grabbing him in the 3rd round, but I could certainly go corner here. Linebacker, I may now go later in the draft. Not that I think Demario Davis is drink from the fountain of youth. Oh, man. And anybody thinking it's going to be Ty Simpson? Not on my watch. No. All right. They brought in Minka. Minka, he said today it's going to be sort of a hybrid. I am really considering in other mocks Jalen Kilgore at 44 because he fits that hybrid nicely too. But I don't want to take a chance right now. I'm going to go EMW, McNeil Warren out of Toledo.
It's amazing how I was listening to you talk and I knew where you were going, even though you didn't say his name.
Yeah.
I love Jalen Kilgore, and I love that he just got some love at pick 44. That's he belongs.
I think he's going higher than a lot of people think.
He belongs.
Yep.
Zona took Maui Noah round 1. I am going to make Cole Payton a Cardinal.
Ooh.
My eyes popped out of my head.
Yeah, I like it.
I was expecting Taylon Green or I was expecting Ty Simpson. I could see it. A little bit of a gamble. I'm so here for it.
When drafting a quarterback, bet on the ceiling. So I think Ty Simpson, everybody, like every description I've heard, I'm like, okay, so you're getting a guy that knows how to, get the team to the line of scrimmage and get you into the right play. That to me is high floor, but I don't know that you're going to get much more out of Simpson. Right? Whereas if Cole Payton becomes the best version of himself, he can be a plus NFL starter. So now this is Matt for the Tennessee Titans, and I think they did Carnell Tate in round 1.
Yeah, they did. They just signed John Franklin Myers. And the question of whether he'll be kind of an edge rusher or an interior guy because of the way he played that kind of like 4-tech D end for the Broncos will be a little bit interesting to see. They could use an interior offensive lineman, and there is a guard I like, who people are surprisingly low on. And on the PFF board, he is unbelievably low. They could look at center, but they did just bring back Austin Schlottman. So I have to imagine that if they're paying for a guy like that, they want him. I think you could look a wide variety of ways with this pick. I am going to take a peek at corner. They did bring in Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott. I'm surprised L'Jarius Sneed is still on the roster. I was told by Titans fans 99% chance he'd get cut, and it hasn't happened yet. And so that I took a peek, but I don't know if they want a second linebacker. I don't know if they go for another interior guy. I am going to do another interior guy.
Corner
Actually,
and edge are really big needs.
yeah, but he just brought over Jermaine Johnson with him because he liked him with the Jets. And I don't know that there's like a solid D end. Like a lot of those guys are off the board, and I'm gonna personally say I'm not a huge Zion Young fan. So the closest guy I would have is Gabe Yakis. And I think corner would be a huge need if they cut Sneed. But they have Alontae Taylor, who they just signed. They have Cordell Flott, who they just signed. And so I could imagine them waiting. Man, screw it. I'll take Gabe Jackas from Illinois. We'll make that a down defensive end, get a little rotation going. But I think that could make sense.
Well,
for the
that
Titans,
is
but
Salah's calling card. He loves rotating.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he had Jermaine. They drafted Will McDonald. They had Bryce Huff. You know, he'd move in JFM before they traded him away. They just they traded for Solomon Thomas. He loves rotation there.
Yeah.
Steve York for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. I wonder who they drafted in round one. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need a quarterback, I think.
Yeah, I think, maybe they should take Ty Simpson here. All right, different ways I could go. The O-line, they could address that. The D-line. Now, you know what? I'd give them a weapon. Let's give them Casey Concepcion. I like the way he can move. I'm not, I mean, at pick, where are we? 36? I really foresee a scenario 6 or 7 receivers go in round one. The fact he makes it this far, I got to do it. I don't care if, other positions were lacking. I just love what this kid can do.
The Giants took Sonny Styles in round one. This is a really good board. Like, I'm looking at the top of this board. Like, I could see the top 4 players here very easily dropping to this spot, and any one of them is a good pick. But Avion Terrell is the best pick out of those 4, in my opinion. The Giants need a corner. They need more than one. So whether Terrell is going to play slot or boundary is less important than the Giants already need more than one corner. So basically get a good player into the building and then figure out, is he slot, is he boundary later? So we're back to Houston, who took Basantis in round one. And this will be, and this board, I think, played out really well for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that they need here, but especially I'm going to go look at the interior of the defensive line, where they also could look in the beginning of this draft. I like Christian Miller. I like Lee Hunter. I like Dominique Orange, all in this range. I think Lee Hunter is more of like is going to primarily be used as a nose tackle for run defense. And they did bring back Sheldon Rankins. Sheldon Rankins is far from a nose tackle. They have a more thin pass rushing defensive line that they like to run. But I did watch Christian Miller line up in the zero tech pretty often for Georgia this year. He was a pretty decent run stuffer. You don't start day one for the Georgia Bulldogs unless you're a pretty good football player. He showed up as a freshman and played. I know that, a lot of people are like, don't care about what players do as a freshman, but it's hard to play as a freshman for Georgia. And especially on the defensive line. And so I'm going to say Christian Miller will be a guy that D'Amico Ryans really likes.
Mm-hmm.
Steve York for the Browns, who have
Yeah, so they did the
you've done
2
every
O
Browns
lines.
pick. Look at you.
Yeah. No, I didn't. This is my first Browns pick. Matt Adams.
Yeah, I
Oh,
did
that's right.
the second
That's right.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he took the
Ioane.
tackle and the guard, and Ioane.
Yep.
All right, we're not going to a line again. As attractive as that would be, man, they
Todd
need
Monken.
wide receiver. I
Todd Monken
know
would be.
they wide receiver, but look, could Todd Monken conceivably be a one and done as a head coach? Maybe. You've got Dylan Gabriel, the little lefty, Shador. They're not going to be able to get rid of Deshaun. I mean, he may be their best bet to start, right? You got to pay him anyway. Man, am I really, really, really tempted to do Ty Simpson here. I really am.
I thought about it earlier in the first round, and I was like, I just can't do it.
I know, but I'm really tempted. But do I add another guy? Yeah. Well, no, Kenny, I would have taken him for the Jets back in 2018. I like Monken. Oh, man. All right. Yeah, I may regret this, but I do like Ty Simpson here, but I got to go Boston. Denzel Boston. I mean, we're at what pick are we on now? 39, and he's still around. Yeah, I got to do that.
The Kansas City Chiefs at 40.
All right. So my Chiefs, the Chiefs are going to be losing. Patrick Mahomes may not play in the beginning of the season. They desperately need a backup quarterback. I'm kidding. We're going to be looking at probably wide receiver, or I was going to consider edge. The Chiefs really are going to want to get a pass catcher to help Patrick Mahomes. But I think this wide receiver class is deep. There's one guy I thought absolutely should have gone in the first round, and has not gone in the first round. Chiefs are visiting with him. And I think Chris Johnson does not make it out of the first round. I don't think there's a chance he makes it out of the first round. If he was available at 40, Brett Veach would be screaming like a little girl in the Chiefs war room to go run in a pick for Chris Johnson. Steve Spagnuolo would love it. 3 straight defensive picks is not exactly how I imagined this going. But I think the Chiefs have won Super Bowls, especially the most recent one on the backs of a really strong defense and Patrick Mahomes' willingness to score points. And I can imagine that the Chiefs will go back to that as much as I hate the idea of it. So I'm going to go with Chris Johnson, and figure out that whole receiver thing later.
So it's interesting because I've done mocks with Chris Johnson to the Chiefs before, and Price disagreed with me. So thank you for thank you. I'm just going to say thank you, Matt.
I think Chris Johnson is possible to the Chiefs at 40 and like maybe at 29 if the other options are gone. Probably not in the first round, just because I don't think the Chiefs, and I think this would be Price's argument as well. Price is great, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know him. He's my coworker over at Arrowhead Addict, is incredible. But I don't know that they would trade for a first round pick by trading away a corner just to go draft a corner with the pick they traded for. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So if he's there at 40, then I think the Chiefs go, well, but also like I mentioned earlier, I think it's very possible you see the Chiefs try to get up to where the Browns are picking, to where the Eagles are picking, the Steelers may be picking, that type of range to try to get themselves one of those interior guys before they get stuck with 1 foot Caleb Banks.
So speaking of interior guys, the Bengals took Reuben Bain in round 1. They still need a defensive tackle. It's going to be Lee Hunter here. I think this is Lee Hunter's floor.
Yeah, I don't think he gets this far, but
Yeah, so I mean, I can see him going higher, but if the Bengals don't go defensive line round 1, it's going to be Orange, Hunter, or Miller here. So I'm going with Hunter. And Steve, you are up for the Saints.
Yeah, I think I gave them Makai Lemon in round 1, right?
I think you are correct.
yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Time to look at, man, one of 'em- this is where I cannot be I can't be Switzerland, man. I there's a couple of guys with the Jets coming up at 44 that are in top 5 of
We're
my
stopping
position.
them. I'm not sure if Kenny's been here before, but we have Kenny from the 49ers in the chat. So, by the way, Kenny,
right.
tell us what you think of who did we take? Fano. at
I took
27.
Fano. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Defensively, do I want to go D line or linebacker? Let's show me the linebacker, please. I think it's, yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, man.
I forget who I was looking at earlier, but I did the same thing. I was like, oh,
He's here.
Yeah, those are the two that I'm thinking. Depends when I pick next at 44, and then I'll be very curious which one of us has the Colts. Let's go Anthony Hill Jr. for the Saints.
The Dolphins in round 1.
yeah. So the Dolphins around 1 took Kenyon Sadiq.
Right.
Got themselves a tight end. Something that I think not Mike McDaniel, Bobby Slowick would be happy with. He was made an advocation to go get Dalton Schultz. He also drafted tight ends when he was with the Texans. So I think that makes a ton of sense. Now it's Jeff Hafley's pick, and Jeff Hafley's going to get what he wants. Runs a lot of like multiple defense, things like that. And I think that the Dolphins would heavily consider taking a DB earlier. And when you go look at what their secondary looks like, it's grim. Like, I don't think if you gave me 100 guesses, I would have guessed who their nickel corner is going into next year, because I swear I thought Lonnie Johnson was out of the league. Like, Lonnie Johnson didn't crack the Chiefs starting roster or practice squad a couple of years ago. And he's their nickel corner. I'm going to take a guy who is easily top 50 on my board, maybe higher, probably up closer to top 25. Keontae Scott is the best nickel corner in this year's class. I also like Jalen Kilgore, who is going to be right behind Keontae Scott. They're very close on my board, but boy, Keontae Scott was one of the best players on that Miami defense that featured 2 first-round defensive ends. And I think that nickel corner is one of the most underrated positions in the league. Jeff Hafley goes and gets his guy. Keontae Scott belongs in a Dolphins jersey at that point.
Steve, you're back up for the Jets.
Yeah. 2 ways I gonna go. Oh man. I still need a guard. I'm gonna roll the dice and hold off till round 4. I don't have a round 3 pick. Go back to corner for me. I just want to verify that my eyes aren't deceiving me. Yeah. Nope. Nope. Right in the middle. Nope. One of my top 5 corners, and he really got to show his stuff because McCoy was out all year. Yeah, Colton Hood, he's actually number 3 corner on my board, and yeah, I'm happy.
He took Thieneman in round 1. for the Ravens in round 2. Now the Ravens, I believe, did they sign some free agent wide receivers?
Don't think so.
Uh,
I'm looking right now.
okay.
I'm of the impression that they have not. No, they still got Flowers, Bateman, Walker, Wester, Wade, and Johnson, which is gross.
It's interesting because DaCosta has taken injured players in round 2 before. I'm going to go Chris Bell from Louisville.
Wow. Okay.
May have to sit out a year, but DaCosta's done this before.
Chris Bell is. I don't think he sits out the entire year.
No.
For the record, I think that he very possibly could play week 1. He claims he'll be back by July for training camp.
Well, his injury, remember, I saw on social media people talking about, when Jameson Williams got hurt, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago. He got hurt in January. Bell, that was a
November,
early
right?
to mid-November injury. I've seen of his rehab. I think you're right, Matt. I think he's going to be back for training camp.
Yeah, I got ripped apart today because I did truly mock Chris Bell to the Chiefs at 40. And my player comparison for Chris Bell is Deebo Samuel, because I think he's a legit, great with the ball in his hands, stocky receiver, is one of the best run after catch receivers, maybe the best in this year's draft. He tore his ACL before Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL. Nobody is saying Patrick Mahomes is going to miss the entire season next year. And Patrick Mahomes also tore his LCL.
Well, the interesting thing about, not to play doctor here, and we want to keep it moving in the interest of the show, but, Mahomes, so I'm trying to think of other guys, in the NFL. Malik Neighbors was early on in the year. He really shredded his knee, but he actually waited 5 or 6 weeks to have the surgery, because I guess his knee swelled up, whatever. Whereas Mahomes had the surgery done right away. He wanted to have it done before it had a chance to swell. And, my medical degree is basically limited to, Dr. Google and Dr. Chat GPT, but, there is something about that. So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, we even saw Cam Akers return in a season from an Achilles tear. Same with Rodgers, who so well.
Allegedly, he was going to come back.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's I don't think he misses the whole season. I think that's a great spot for him. So more so just love for Jim's pick there.
I think Chris Bell, if medicals check out, we're mocking him too low. If NFL GMs are confident that he's going to be ready for training camp, he's probably going round 1.
Yeah, it's a first-round player, 100%.
Yep. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Matt, you are up. They took Jacob Rodriguez in round 1.
All right, so I think that you're looking at edge at this point. I think that Jacob Rodriguez is a dang good player, but Todd Bowles is going to want to build his defense. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on this before I say it, but the best outside linebacker prospect I have on the board right now is Joshua Josephs from Tennessee, who I think is a significantly better prospect than both Cassius Howell and our Mason Thomas, who kind of crapped the bed at the combine. And
this is our mock draft. Let's make it your guy. So if you've got Joshua Josephs there, that's what we do.
I do have a top 50 grade on Joshua Josephs. I think that he's thin. And that's the biggest concern that surrounds him. I believe he's 235, 240, which is really thin for an NFL player. 235. But we've seen guys add weight at the NFL level. He has plenty of length, a wide range of pass rush moves. He is surprisingly good against the run for a player of his size, which really convinced me that even if he gains weight, he can still be effective. And he doesn't have too much room to go. And yes, Kenny, T-Rex Arms Howell is not going to. I don't have a top 50 grade on Howell. I wouldn't take him in the top 50, and Joshua Josephs is my best outside
He needs
linebacker
to
on
go
the
to
board.
New England, so him and Will Johns.
Yeah, go head to head. Yeah, Will Campbell and
Will Campbell,
Will
there we
Campbell
go.
and
Will
Cassius
Campbell
Howell
can go
going
ahead.
at it.
Yep. So, Steve, you are up for the Colts at pick 47.
Yeah, I want to go defense. I'm looking.
The easiest team to mock draft for is the Colts. Just pick
Well,
the guy
it's-
with the highest RAS score.
Yeah, that's true.
Commanders do the same thing, apparently.
Well, a couple of former Jets GMs love that too. All right. They signed Arden Key and Michael Clemens from the Jets. Nothing impressive there. Let's take a look at their depth chart. Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Laiatu Latu. Oh man. I with the I don't know what the heck they're doing anyway. I mean,
So
the
their
Pierce
their
contract.
4 top needs are on defense. It's linebacker, defensive tackle, safety,
Yep.
and edge.
I know. I kind of just want to be a jerk and get them fired and pick Ty Simpson here, but I'm not going to do that. All right. I'm going to send them. Yeah, I agree. Linebacker, secondary, I could see. Nope. Let's go Josiah Trotter for them right here.
So I am up for the Atlanta Falcons. This is a dream board, I think, for Atlanta because all the wide receivers dropped. Right, Surratt dropped, Bernard dropped, Hurst dropped, Brazel dropped, and they need wide receiver. I'm going to go Ted Hurst is the player to put opposite Drake London. Get yourself a boundary X that can win on the outside, can get you vertical. And the Minnesota Vikings are up. Matt, in round 1, they took Jermod.
Jermod. Yeah, so the Vikings had a glaring need at corner. They go and address that, get themselves an outside guy. They did bring in James Pierre, and Theo Jackson will probably stick in the slot. Now I'm going to move my attention to the offense. You have a new quarterback who you have to protect. Kyler Murray is a very good creator with his feet, but you got to keep the pressure from coming up the middle because that's when he can't see anything. Their center right now is Michael Juergens, a former 7th-round pick for the Cardinals, who is a not great center. And I think if you asked most Viking fans, they would follow along and say the same thing. Who I do think is the best center in the class, and medicals always are the biggest question mark, is Connor Liu. I thought that he was the best center in the class before the ACL tear. I thought he was the top 15 player in the class before his ACL tear. The injury does take a hit on his draft stock, but I think similar to these other guys you're talking about, the ACL tear, he'll be back for week 1. The Vikings will love to get a guy like that to be the anchor of their offensive line that already has 2 pretty good tackles.
Detroit Lions at 50.
Yeah. What did they do? They went tackle in round 1 or guard?
I believe I did Lomu. That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. They could still use O-line help. Linebacker. What moves? They did something on the secondary. I really like the Pacheco signing. Yep, but they need something because right now looks like they had claimed him back in August was Tyler Lacey from Jacksonville. So I'm sorry, Cassius, but wait, let me just see the edge board before I finalize that pick. Ooh. All right, we're keeping Derek Moore in Michigan, and he's going to be a Lion.
So Panthers in round 1. The Panthers selected.
I think I went tackle Blake Miller. Yeah.
Yep. So CJ Allen is a popular pick for the Panthers in round 1. They need a linebacker. They need one badly. So
he's not there.
If Trotter was here, he would have been the pick. Like, if I have to predict, I think Goldday is more likely to be a Colt than Trotter, but I'm not going to let Goldday fall past Carolina here. So Jake Golday, welcome to Carolina. And
All
then
right.
Matt.
Sorry. I've been thinking about this pick for a minute because it is the first pick for the Packers. And I may have a semi-interesting direction to go in this one. New defensive coordinator, Hafley just left. Jonathan Gannon comes in. They made some moves, looking for changes on the edge fit. I do love Malachi Lawrence, but some of the corners drafted by Jonathan Gannon when he was with the Cardinals, or played for him when he was with the Cardinals. Starling Thomas, Max Melton, Keitrell Clark, all of them 5'10" or shorter. He is not afraid of putting out shorter corners out there if it means that they're going to play, significant minutes, play well, play consistent football. D'Angelo Pons is a very, very, very good football player. He's just small, and I do understand that is a concern. I do get it. Carrington Valentine is not the answer at cornerback. D'Angelo Pons may very well be the answer at cornerback. D'Angelo Pons has first-round talent and seventh-round size. So,
So Jake was part of a podcast of players that will never be a Packer. You just drafted one of the players that will never be a Packer.
Oh, brutal.
Steve, you're up for Pittsburgh again in round 2.
Boy, this could be bad. I don't want to upset Will. Anyway.
So, Matt, one of the things that I love about draft professors, right, is everybody has their opinions and stuff. And the Packers outnumber everybody else in the group chat. There's more Packers people in there than anybody else. They've pretty much given us an education on like all the measurements. Like if they're drafting this position, it looks like this. It's hysterical. So I apologize for calling you out on that. I should have just let the pick
it'll happen. It'll happen. They may break the trend. I mean, D'Angelo Pons is a seriously good football player. I think that you can get upset with the size and the measurements all you want, but when you watch a kid like that play, you draft football players that are good at playing football. The Packers need a guy next to Keyshawn Nixon, and they had Jair Alexander, who is also a smaller corner. These guys know Green Bay better than I do, but this is just from a glance, feels like it would be a good fit, especially with Jonathan Gannon being there. I think that would be the guy that he advocates for if he's looking for a corner, because he's never had a problem with going with smaller guys.
Steve, you're for Pittsburgh. I'm thinking Will's vote will be Keith Abney, but what would you do?
He said, man, I wish they would do that more often.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that the Packers draft people agree with how the Packers draft.
I got you. It just made me laugh.
Yep.
Anyway, what were you saying about Abney? I missed it.
So I'm guessing that Will's vote for Pittsburgh would be Abney here, but I'm curious what you're going to do.
Yeah, for me, I'm in that boat. I mean, at some point we got to start seeing a run of more on the O-line, some of the receivers, right? But yeah, I am going to go with Abney for the Steelers. Man, really wanted to give them O-line, but no regrets, as they say. No regrets.
Dream draft for the Eagles. So they get Delane in round 1. And they're going to get Max Ihinacourt in round 2.
Mm-hmm.
This is great. This is what Howie Roseman does.
Yeah, the Chargers went with TJ Parker in round 1. We have a question about the Steelers pick. He's wondering where Abney will play. If he'll play inside, outside, he'll switch to Steelers speed skating. You never really know.
Quarterback.
Yeah.
He will be backing up Aaron Rodgers, Will Howard, and Drew Aller.
Drew Aller. Yeah.
Serves me correctly. When we were doing mock drafts for Pittsburgh last year, Will was complaining they need a slot corner.
Yep.
I could see Abney being in the slot. I could see him being tried on the boundary and failing inside.
I thought about wide receiver too, but I was gonna give you a guard, Will, but nah, I like the Abney fit.
So we get to the Chargers. I think I'm looking at two spots. I'm going to look at guard. I'm going to look at safety because they just lost Alohi Gilman. They're going to want to. They like to run multiple safety sets, and Derwin James is never a guarantee to have a healthy season. So when you look at those groups, I think my top safety right now would be Genesis Smith. I would. I want to consider Jalen Kilgore, but I think they like to put Tarheeb still in the slot a good bit. And as a former Maryland guy, I can't take his job. So that's my guy. Got to keep him in there. And looking at guard, I'm not really in love with any of the guards that are there. Anez Cooper is my next best guard. And even that, I think, would be a tiny bit of a reach for the Chargers. Who already have learned the hard way that drafting big guys and making them play guard has not really worked as well for them in Harbaugh's offense. And it would be hilarious to draft them Caden Proctor and put him at guard. And as a Chiefs fan, it would make me feel great if they actually did that. But no, I'm going to go to safety. I'm probably going to say Genesis Smith. I think that they're going to want to have another guy. I can't hear you.
Yeah, couldn't hear you.
Mr. Smith. Got it.
Yeah.
What was he asking about Dominique Orange?
Oh, I think the Chargers, consider the defensive lineman, but Jamari Caldwell played so well for them last year as their nose tackle. And they're going to run a lot of that 3-4 defense that they've run for so many years. I just don't see them doubling up on it. And I don't know that Dominique Orange can kick out to further than 3 tech. And so having those two guys on the field at the same time doesn't make a ton of sense. They still have T.R. Tart, who's all right, but I think Jamari Caldwell is a really good player. I think that he'll stick as their nose tackle. Genesis Smith is one of my favorite guys in the draft. So I think putting him and Derwin James together makes miracles happen on the Chargers defense with those two dudes.
So, Steve, you're up for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, their first pick of the draft. So they really haven't done much. The only thing they've done is sign a running back. Yeah, I think that's about a bit it. Assuming there's no long-term issues with Hunter, I think, we see him playing in the secondary and being subbed in on offense. I'm going to go. All right. This is where I'm staring right at Big Citrus. And I really like the fit there in I can't think of the DC's name, the Mr. F-Bomb. I can't forget his name. I can't think of his name now. But Jim, I am really, really high on Grayson Halton. He is in my top 5 of defensive tackles. And yeah, maybe I'm being a little biased, but I'm going to give the Jags Grayson Halton here.
I think it's Campanelli for the Jaguars.
That's right. Campanile. That's
yeah. Yeah, that's it. I'm not saying it right.
That's okay.
Who's the
They went to defensive tackle from Ohio State, right?
Yeah, I took McDonald.
Okay, so they need edge and they need linebacker. So by process of elimination, there is no round 2 linebacker left. Right? There might be some guys for 3rd round, but nobody worthy of 57.
Yeah, unless you want to consider one of the safeties like a big time, full-time box guy like like Lewis.
I mean, Halsey is still out here. I mean, that dude could come right down. He's the big thumper.
They just lost Brisker too, who was playing in the box a little bit as well.
Let's go Halsey. And the Bears have another pick coming up in 3, but I'll do Halsey here.
Yep, I like that pick.
So, Kenny, we got another pick for your 49ers. This one is Matt.
Yeah. I'm plugging in the Halsey pick here. I'm trying to keep track because the screen is small and my eyes need big and bright for me to assess what's going on. So getting to the 49ers, I think that they still could use some interior defensive line. Big Orange is worth a look, but not quite who I think that they would go with, but he is falling. And I think that there's a certain point where you stop a guy from falling. Safety, another position that's worth a look. You just took AJ Halsey, but the 49ers do like to kind of push into that box some slowly but surely, especially as the game goes on. I like a lot of their guys that they can play as nickels. I like Malik Mustafa a ton. I like Upton Stout with his ability to play out there. So the 49ers are such a well-rounded team. It can be kind of tough, but where I think that they're going to get the most value is by taking an edge here. Mykal Williams just has not quite panned out. Keon White is kind of like a weird fit. And so I actually was not looking at the chat, but Zion Young was going to be who I said. So Zion Young is my guy with this one. Not my favorite guy in the draft, but that's a really good fit for him. I think I would be between him and Malachi Lawrence here, but I think Zion Young is going to be a better fit in the 49ers 4 down.
It's the Tigers, the Texans. This is their third pick.
Yeah, who did we grab there? It was interior D-line, wasn't it?
Santos and Miller. Can you hear me?
No, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Chase Basantis and Kristen Miller.
Oh, okay.
So they still need a tackle.
Yeah. I told you before, I love Dunker inside, Proctor inside. Let's give him, do I want to do that? Yeah, let's do that. Let's go with Caleb Tiernan. Swiped it again. Swiped
there
again.
There goes the Rams pick. Oh boy. Time to reconsider.
Up for the Bears. We haven't done an edge or a linebacker. It should be noted that they're minus Ozzy Trapilo.
Mm-hmm.
And Caden Proctor has dropped to pick 60. He doesn't drop to 61.
Okay.
Okay. Rams are up. Matt, this is you.
Man, you went fast.
Yep.
Omar Cooper Jr.
Yeah, I know. So taking away the wide receiver spot makes this a slightly tougher pick. They have 3 solid tight ends, and as much as I really want to take Sam Roush at some point here, not quite in love with that. Like you mentioned earlier, the linebackers are getting quite thin. Kyle Lewis is coming to mind. They did just extend Cam Curl. So that's a little bit of a weird one. Byron Young has played well. Josiah Stewart's played well. Jared Verse has played well. I don't know, man. This is a tough one. Running back, they have 2 solid ones, so that would be a tough sell.
Defensive tackle you like?
Did you say defensive tackle?
Offensive tackle.
Oh, offensive tackle. Yeah, I just don't have an offensive tackle left that I like. That's the problem. He took my guy. So that kind of Jennings, Dunker, Markel Bell. Yeah, I'm just not in love with these guys. They could go corner. They just spent a lot of money at corner. I'm gonna say Kyle Lewis. They play him as a linebacker primarily. I think I'm between him and Keyshawn Elliott. I feel like this has to be a linebacker for them or they trade out. Just because they're a well-rounded team. Like, you got to continually give the Rams credit because it feels like you say that every single year, that they really are one of those teams that's hard to find a glaring flaw for. Yes, Kyle Lewis.
Steve,
Yep. I went linebacker for them in round one. I think I went CJ Allen. Yeah. All right. I am going to look at, I told you, man, this is where the wide receivers, I'm looking at the boards, not just the receiver, but guys that are there. Yeah. And I'm thinking about
Still
Big
here.
Citrus. Big Citrus, I'm thinking about. I'm also looking at receiver. There's one name that I think, and the Denver fans could disagree, but I think Jeremy Bernard could be a really nice fit in that offense. You think of the intermediate route running, the option routes, manufactured touches. Oh man, yeah.
Don't-
Let's go, Jeremy. Let's
They
go.
don't have a
Jeremy
starting
Bernard.
defensive tackle. Like, to me, this would either be Orange or Roush.
I still think they're going to pick up Njoku. So that's why I'm not looking tight end. Jeremy Bernard. All right. Yeah. Let's go Big Citrus. Yep. We could grab receiver later on.
Put you on for New England.
Oh, you're putting me on for New England. I thought I had the
I'll give you
Seahawks.
guys, yeah, I'll give you guys the last two.
Okay. I wasn't even thinking about New England. I had my thing lined up for the Seahawks. Let's see here.
New England took Mesidor in round one.
Yeah.
If you like
Man.
Roush, this might be
I-
a good spot
I-
to call his name out.
I do like Roush. I'd love. There's two guys I really want to mention. I'm gonna go with Roush. I think that feels like the best spot to fit him in here. Taking a quick scan before I confirm that. Who is their first round pick again? Who do we go with? Mesidor. Okay.
Message. Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there a wide receiver left that I like? They really need another like a depth pass catcher here.
Receivers
Uh,
here. It's old Surratt, Lane, Fields, Bernard.
I'm gonna say that the versatility of I'm gonna go with Jeremy Bernard. I think that they need receiver more than they need tight end. And as much as Romeo Doubs is nice, and I do like Keishon Butte, I think that Jeremy Bernard gives you a guy who can win really early. His get off the line of scrimmage is so impressive. I think that's who you put there. And I'm going to be sad that my guy falls out of the second round, but I didn't have a spot to squeeze him in.
Steve, you have the last pick of this with Seattle.
Who had what was pick 32? Which way did we go?
It was a guard. It was Pregnon. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Because I cursed you and wished you
Yeah.
stiff. That's right. Now I remember. All right. I mean, I could look at going Jadarian Price here, right? Why not? Last pick in the second round. I can look at a receiver here. I'm not though. I am going to, my guy. I brought him up before. Good coaches take good players and find a way to make them work. So even though we've got Cisse here, we've got Kamari Ramsey, who I'm really high on as a safety. I'm going to go Jalen Kilgore with the
Yeah.
Seahawks and let Mike McDonald just find a way to make this guy cook.
Yep. Yeah. So I was looking at Jalen Kilgore and Davis Igbinosun for that pick. Those are my two
Mhm.
corners that I love. And I think Mike McDaniel would love them. I probably was going to go with Igbinosun because I think he plays outside a little bit better. But boy, those two dudes, they're two really good athletes that are going to translate really well to corner.
And I mean, Seattle, they've retained a bunch of guys, but they've signed nobody. I mean, look, we've got a month and a half. No, we don't have a month and a half. We only have a month because the epic mock draft is much more important than the real draft. Right, Jim?
Obviously.
Obviously.
It's not more important. It's what's next.
It's
That's
cooler.
So So that was a pretty good mock. Definitely different, which is part of what we strive to do. So you'll see a lot of mocks on this channel the next several weeks. Matt, would you like to take a moment, introduce yourself, tell everybody about Arrowhead Addict and all of the other work that you do?
Yeah, my name's Matt. I'm a big Chiefs fan. I grew up a Chiefs fan. I'm from Kansas City. I now live on the East Coast and the Maryland, Virginia area, kind of back and forth. But yeah, I write for Arrowhead Addict, covering the Chiefs, their draft prospects. You'll probably see Price on here every now and again as well. He's kind of works with me covering Kansas City, and I think you'll definitely continue to see me on here, especially as we get closer to draft day and then after draft day, because I work over the summer with this stuff as well. So Delmarva, yeah.
Steve,
Yep.
Tuesday.
So that's right. Big. I think we're going to be doing Big Ten, right? Come summer scouting.
Yes, sir.
Can't wait.
Psyched.
Can't wait.
Go
I am
Terps.
psyched. Ohio State, but that's okay. That's okay. That's fine.
Don't let that
Anyway,
slide.
hey there, the Ohio State and Jets fan. Steve, center of everything is right here. That is my Twitter handle, or X, pick your poison, as well as the YouTube channel. Finally, I have been waiting to have enough time to have a series of articles, but come Saturday, I'm relaunching the Substack. I've got articles ready to go at my top 5 of every position, my sleepers, the big board, and a bunch of other. You can find me here Thursdays at 7, and then we'll be moving to Tuesday along with Matt to cover the Big Ten for summer scouting. But more importantly, I will be running the Jets War Room on my channel. My podcast is called Talk, Tape, and Turbines. I will be running the Jets War Room for the Draft Professor's Epic Mock Draft, which takes place in just about 4 weeks. And very excited to, that is how I discovered the Draft Professors. Can't believe it's a year already. So yeah, coming full circle and just getting started.
Doing the mock, it's a lot of fun to see different people's opinions on what teams will do, as well as where people's boards are. So why we have so many people at Draft Professor is because when you begin to see multiple opinions, maybe the regular draft won't be a surprise, because at least one person at Draft Professor was probably as high on that player, and giving that variation on podcasts can inform an audience. So for everybody here, Kenny, like you said, it's your second podcast. I definitely remembered that you had been here before, Kenny. So thank you for coming back to check it out. Will is going to be in the chat right here, is going to be running the Steelers War Room for Epic Mock. Steve is one of the event admins for Epic Mock, running the Jets War Room. You will see Matt on the Chiefs War Room. I think it's the All Chiefed Up podcast. So you're going to see 32 draft professors mock drafting against each other, and they're going to be doing it from their own channels. And then we're going to have a few people on this channel, such as myself and Hank and Ben, just discussing everybody's picks. So it's a lot of fun. So Epic Mock, April 9th, 10th, and 11th. And you will see more information about that coming real soon. For me, Steve, myself, and the 85 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on a podcast again in about 20 minutes. Thank you, everybody.